All right, we got Marshall from South Texas. Own one rental property. Dad is a renter. Got it. Got it. We got Jason from Boise, Idaho. Couple live in flips. Nice, nice. Um, Clint, you want to introduce yourself while I get set up here?
Yeah. So Clint here, partnered with Colin here on the community. Colin got me in real estate a year ago when I left my secure, high-paying but miserable tech job. So um, been wholesaling the past year, starting to build out some rentals, the BRRRR method. My past life, I was a commercial real estate broker and saw a lot of guys kind of using the same method in commercial and knew about it as well in the single family space. And so, um, yeah, that's where I'm at my real estate journey.
Perfect, perfect. We got Charles here, 10 current co-living. All right. I love co-living. Something I've been super curious about. We got Kosh from Jersey City. Nice. All right. So, thanks everybody for joining. I'm going to share my screen here. We'll just jump right in. Save your questions till the end. We'll try to do our best to answer all of them. And typically, Clint and I will hang out a little bit longer for anybody who wants to as well. So, without further ado, I am going to share my screen. All right. So, today's webinar is what I like to call the BRRRR 2.0. So, how to go from zero to Section 8 cash flow rentals in 90 days. Just to give you a little bit of context about myself. So I've been an entrepreneur for, geez, I guess started my first business in 2012. So 13 years. I've had a couple of exits, sold those businesses. I've been doing real estate for a little over 18 months. I've analyzed over 700 deals, did 40 deals last year. Have a small team on track to do probably 90, hopefully more deals this year across rentals, flips, and wholesale. My main market is in St. Louis. I've never been to St. Louis. I've never been inside of any of the houses that I've purchased. I've done this all virtually. I currently own 30 plus rentals. I have two that are in the process of being rehabbed right now. Of the 8 projects that we have right now, so 6 are being flipped, 2 we're keeping as rentals. Clint's an entrepreneur. He's had one exit. He's analyzed over 300 deals. He has some commercial real estate background. He was one of the first people that I mentored, and he was kind of the one that encouraged me to, start helping others and starting the community, which is Real Estate Dealmakers. And he was really successful. He did 800,000 in transactions, earning 90,000 in assignment fees in his first 90 days, which is very good for anybody who doesn't know. He did it all virtually, and now he's on his way of scaling to 100K months. Also, going to start picking up rentals and doing flips as well. So, wholesaling is a great place to start for folks. I kind of started doing a little bit of everything, but today I'm going to tell you why this matters, right? So, most investors think you need years of savings, lots of money. I've used the BRRRR method plus Section 8 to build 6-figure rental portfolio in under 2 years. So I currently make just about 10,000 in net cash flow from my rentals. I typically make anywhere from $200 to $600 a door. I can kind of get into how I do that. I buy a lot of 2-bedroom houses and turn them into 3. I buy a lot of 30-bedroom houses and turn them into 4s. I do 100% Section 8, which gets me over market rent. And this strategy absolutely works in today's market if you pick the right market. So with today's interest rates, I mean, I even have 8% interest rates on a lot of my rentals, and I still get net positive cash flow. I'm typically getting about a 1.5% rent to price ratio. So what does that mean? I'm usually buying a house that's worth $100,000 that's renting out for 1,500 plus. Here's a real example. This property I found through cold calling. So I have a company that I've used since the beginning. They cold call out to people who we think might want to sell their house. So this one here had a after repair value of 125,000. I got it under contract for 71,500. The house was actually in phenomenal shape. I actually ended up buying another house from this same couple. They had 2 rentals. They wanted to get rid of both of them. Whoops. So this one here, I put about 5K into work, just really cleaning stuff up. Why did I put $5,000 in work? Not because it needed it. I actually could have left the house alone. But when you do the BRRRR method, there's a lot of mistakes that people will make. And one of it is to get the full value of the house, meaning when I refinance and put long-term debt on this property, if I want to take out 75% of the appraised value, you have to do at least $5,000 in work. That's the bare minimum. So that could be just paint. You could paint a house. You're going to get to 5,000 pretty quickly. Maybe you do a couple small things. The other thing is you have to wait 90 days. So there's like a seasoning period, and then you got to do 5,000, and that allows you to get the full 75% of the value. Okay. In the BRRRR method, you're looking to pull all your money out so you can recycle it and do it over and over again. There's some people in here that probably are very familiar with the BRRRR method. I did not invent this, been around for a long time. I learned it from Bigger Pockets. I listened to Bigger Pockets for almost 2 years before I bought my first rental. So I got a Section 8 tenant in here paying $1,450 a month, and it makes like a little bit over $200 net cash flow. Net cash flow is really important. So this is not, hey, my mortgage is $1,250 and I make $1,450. That is not net cash flow. Net cash flow means after I pay the debt service, okay, the mortgage, insurance, taxes, property management, CapEx, maintenance, and I even account for vacancy. Okay, so after all that is said and done, I make 200, I think it's $218 per month on this house. When I refinance this house on long-term debt with a DSCR loan, I actually got a check for $2,300. Okay, so that means the refinance covered all of my closing costs, and then I was, negative $2,300 in this house. I can show you a quick breakdown of what that actually is. So here's the house, here's the cash flow, here's the cap rate. Holding period, was the seasoning period, which was 3 months. And you can see right here, total cash invested, negative $2,300. Okay. You can see here in the expenses, I've got everything here: my property taxes, my insurance, my property management, my maintenance, my CapEx. I have vacancy accounted 5% as well. The reason I actually really like Section 8 is you typically are going to have very low vacancy, very low turnover. You're not going to have to turn the houses over. A lot of people have some negative thoughts about Section 8, and I'm happy to answer any of those questions that people have. But if you think about it, where people go wrong with Section 8 is they don't screen their tenants. They assume like, hey, they're having a voucher, the government's going to pay the rent. They don't check their credit. They don't check for criminal background. They don't check for minimum credit score. We have a very thorough screening process of what makes a good tenant, even though they have a voucher. Okay. So that's something that's really, really, really important. I can't express that enough.
Hey, Colin, real quick on that
Yeah.
last one. So you had no money in the deal. It's cash flowing 200 a month. And then how much equity did you have in the deal all
Oh,
sudden?
yeah. Good question. Good question. So you can see here that the property was worth 125,000. Let's see what was when the refinance out. So we pulled out 93. Okay, so I had 25 plus 7, so $32,000 in equity into this house. Pulled out 2,300 at closing. So I was zero money into the deal. Got cut a check. I have 30,000 in equity, and then I have somebody paying down the debt every single month, and I make 200 plus cash flow every single month. All right. So let's go back here. And I apologize if I'm going a little quick. It's just last time we didn't, we try to keep these tight 30 minutes because we know everybody's really busy. And the last one, we sort of went over a little bit. So I'm trying to get through it. All right. So here's exactly what I'm going to tell you today: how we buy discounted rentals with no money down, how I do this remotely with a reliable team, how to refinance into long-term debt and have equity and cash flow, and then how to have guaranteed rent through Section 8, and how to avoid some common mistakes. That's everything I'm going to cover today in this short period of time. And I'm going to go through it very quick so that we have, if you're not familiar with the BRRRR method, here's what it is: you buy, you rehab, you refinance, you rent the property out, and then you repeat it over and over again. Okay. The only difference here with what I'm doing is I am very specific. I'm very deep in one market, and I'm doing it with Section 8 tenants. Okay. So that's the BRRRR 2.0. Okay. Step one: You're going to buy discounted properties. Here's a couple of ways you can find deals. Buy deals off market from wholesalers, agents, or direct to seller marketing. That's what I do today. I often buy from wholesalers. I have some VIP wholesalers that I work with. They bring me deals before they get them under contract so that I can tell them where I'm a buyer. They get those locked up and I close quickly. Okay. We do direct to agent marketing. So we reach out to agents. We let them know that we're a cash buyer. We tell them exactly what we're looking for. And we let them know that we can close quickly. We can come up with unique solutions for distressed sellers or sellers that have unique situations. That might mean, maybe it's an elderly lady and she needs help getting into a senior place and we'll help her. Maybe that means they need to close beforehand. We release some funds early so they can move and have moving expenses. Maybe we lease it back to them for 30 or 60 days rent free. We're in the business of creating solutions for people that are in situations that are unfortunate. And in return, we're giving them speed and convenience, and we get those properties at a discount. All right. We also do direct to seller marketing. We have tried everything: PPC, Facebook, texting, cold calling. Cold calling by far outperforms every single channel that I've done. We get over an 8x return. If I spend $1, I make 8 on cold calling specifically. Okay. And I know we're talking about BRRRRs today, but I also wholesale and I also flip properties. Okay. So that's across the board. We get an 8x return on cold calling. How to use other people's money. A couple of options. You can use hard money lenders. You can use, if you have zero experience, you can use hard money lenders. They're just going to have higher rates. You can use a line of credit, or maybe you have private money lender. And sometimes people think, oh, private money lender is a rich friend. Yes, maybe, but it also could just be somebody who's had a good job, has built up some retirement funds that they could borrow from to fund your deal. And then you could give them a nice, generous profit that would go right back into the retirement. That's probably 3 or 4x what the conservative fund is, or that their money is currently invested in that retirement account. Here's the thing is you want to focus on areas where the rent to price ratio is very strong. Ideally 1.25 or plus. Okay. You're going to find this in a lot of Midwest markets. Those are my personal favorite. I have a resource that has the top 10 with all of the metrics that you would need to pick your market if you want. How you do this remotely. You're going to build a boots on the ground team. That's a contractor, a project manager, and an inspector. Have a clear scope of work, budget, and contract. My contracts with my contractors are very airtight. The scope of work is very specific. As you build relationships with these people, some of those things might change or develop. But in the beginning, like I pay them a bonus if they finish early. There's a penalty if they finish late. Okay. And you have to hold them to that. All right. To make your project a priority. You're going to require videos and photos and updates throughout the rehab when they purchase materials, when they finish work, when they're asking for a draw. I have an SOP for all this stuff. Step 3, you're going to refinance into long-term debt. Okay. So you're going to use a DSCR lender, or you could use local banks. So if you're, fortunate enough to live in a great market and you're doing it in your own backyard, local banks are a good option. That's not a path that I've gone down. Okay. You're going to refinance after the seasoning period, right? That's that 90 days. So you can get the full value on the refinance. Ideally, you want to pull your capital out while keeping the asset. Now, look, everybody's different. If you're like, hey, I just want to hit a 20% cash on cash return, maybe that means you leave a little bit of money in the deal. Maybe you leave 5 or 10K in the deal. The example that I showed you, that's like a perfect scenario BRRRR. I've had ones where I leave money in and it's a great asset with a great tenant with high cash flow. And I'm okay with that. It's really a personal choice for you, right? Are you trying to go all in on real estate? Do you have limited cash and you need to recycle it over and over again? You want to pull out as much as possible. If you have a good high paying job, you don't want to leave your job and you're just trying to build up long-term wealth, which is like a lot of people that we work with, they're okay leaving 10, 15 grand into a house when they're getting $30,000 or $40,000 in equity and they're getting potentially a 20, 40, or 50% cash on cash return. But the key here is your tenant pays down your debt. Okay. So your equity is increasing over time and your tenant's paying down your debt. So that is the key to this. Step 4, rent to a Section 8 tenant. Why Section 8? It's a reliable income and you have long-term tenants. Okay. A lot of people, here's kind of some of the big misconceptions that people have about Section 8. They're going to thrash my house. They, are criminals, or like these are all the things that people think. No, these are normal people. A lot of times we're renting to single moms who maybe are fell on bad times. And if you think about it, there's typically on the wait list for Section 8 for many years before they get approved. So guess what? They don't want to lose that. If they break the rules of the lease, if they break the rules of the Section 8 program, they get kicked out of that program. So they typically don't bother you for petty stuff in the house. They typically will follow the rules. A couple of the big ones is like the voucher is approved for 3 people. That could be a mom and her 2 kids. They can't have a boyfriend living there. They can't have the ex-husband living there. They can't have criminals in there. They're like, there's all these rules that they have to follow, and they typically won't break them. Now, there's some exceptions, but if you have good property management in place and good processes, like our property manager does a walkthrough in every single property every 6 months. Make sure it's still in good condition, making sure that they're not breaking the rules. I personally have my rentals in a landlord-friendly state. If we have any issues, we can kick them out quickly, and it's not a big headache. You want to screen your tenants while staying compliant, so you can't discriminate, all that kind of typical stuff. But you also here's a couple examples, right? We don't expect them to have an 800 credit score, but like they need to at least have a decent credit score, and they can't have stupid stuff on there. Like if they couldn't pay their cell phone bill and it's on their credit report, chances are they're not going to pay your sewer bill. And then you're going to have a sewer lien on your property. So these are some of the things that we look for. Here's a bonus tip. Hire a property manager that knows Section 8, like really knows Section 8, okay? And vet that, verify it, get references, okay? Because I've got burned on this before. My first property manager did not do a good job for me, and I had a property that I didn't get any rent for 4 months. Eventually, when I got a new property manager, I got all that back rent, but it was still a headache. Now, step 5 is simple. Repeat and scale. So don't live off your cash flow. Please don't think that you're going to buy rentals and sail off, into retirement off of your cash flow. That is a dream. That's a pipe dream that people on social media often will give you. Your equity is what's going to build your net worth. Repeat this as many times as you can, and have a clear goal in mind of like, how many rentals do you want to buy this year, next year, in the next 60 days, 90 days. Okay. Have something that you're chasing to keep you going. Avoid these common mistakes. You don't need to over renovate your houses. Okay. When you're looking at comps for a property that you're going to BRRRR, don't pick the nicest house in the neighborhood and think that the appraiser is going to give you that value on their house. They're not. When you're looking at comps to identify what you think your property will appraise for once you're ready to refinance it, you have to think about what is your finished product. Now, when you're getting started, you might do really cosmetic, simple rehabs, $5,000, $10,000. I personally like the ugliest, nastiest houses that I can get really dirt cheap, and we do everything new. So that might mean I might buy a house for 15, 20, 25 grand. We might put 40, 50 grand into it, and then it's going to appraise for $100,000+. The reason I like that model is because I'm more willing to take that sort of risk. Also, for me, I end up leaving no or very little money in the deal, and it minimizes my CapEx and maintenance for the next 5 years. I'm not going to have HVACs and furnaces that are breaking. I'm not going to have toilets that are breaking. I'm not going to have those issues because everything in the house is new. Okay. If you're just getting started, you might be more comfortable like just doing floors and paints and like really minimal stuff. If you do that, that's fine too. Everybody got to start somewhere. Your comfortability level or your risk tolerance might get higher as you go on this journey. But the key is don't overdo your rehab, right? You don't need, when we do rehabs, because we do flips as well, we have A, B, and C grade materials that we use, and we use the C grade for all of the rentals, okay? The other thing is not verifying your ARV and rental comps in advance. So what I'm trying to say here is like, when you're looking at comps for something you're going to BRRRR, you're typically looking at as-is condition houses. Like this is a well-maintained house. If you're not doing a full crazy rehab, that is what your house is going to appraise for. So don't take the highest ones and think you're going to get that value. Also, check your rental comps and just be conservative. If you're going to go the Section 8 route, which I highly suggest, you can reach out to the local housing authorities and they'll give you the rent estimates by zip code. And the thing that's key here is they only care about the bedroom count. So that's why I take a lot of 800, 900,000 square foot houses that are 2 bedrooms and I turn them into 3 because I increase my cash flow significantly. A couple of other mistakes: offering too much. That was the wrong slide. That was a slide from the last presentation. So next steps, really simple here. You have 3 options. Option 1 is you can do absolutely nothing. Sit on the sidelines, dream about being a real estate investor or growing your portfolio. Option 2, we have a community of people that are like-minded, that are, burning properties, wholesaling, flipping, have portfolios looking to scale. That community is here. I can send a link to everybody. It's $200 a month. You get weekly group calls with us, access to everything inside of the community about acquisitions, marketing, BRRRR, flipping, you name it. And then if you sign up today, you get a bonus 20-minute coaching call to help you with anything that you need help with on your real estate journey. Option 3 is if you're like really just getting started or really looking to scale, ready to hit the ground running, we do offer one-on-one as well. That's typically us working together for 8 weeks. You get lifetime access to the community, and then you also get deal analysis support from us, right? So we'll set up a Slack channel. You can run numbers on deals. We'll check those for you, give you feedback. One of the guys that we're doing one-on-ones with, he had 0 rentals and he already got his first property in the first 2 weeks of us working together. So if you want to go that option, you can book a call and we can tell you more about that. Without further ado, that's it. I think I ran through that pretty quickly and we still have 6 minutes for questions, but we'll obviously hang out for anybody else that wants to stay past that time. But I think maybe we already have some questions going on in here. Let's see what we got. Just moved out to Dallas. All right, so let's see if we got a question here. Brandon said, no need to answer now. Are you open to sharing the cold calling agency that gets you an 8x return? Yes. And guys, I have tried like 6 different cold call agencies. I have even built an internal team, and these guys by far provide the best results. I'll drop the link in here. Zach is the guy over there. He'll hook you up. It's $2,000 a month for one caller. I think you can do more than one caller, obviously, but one caller is a great place to start. You're going to get like 1 to 2 leads a day. They provide the dialer, the data, the cold caller. They have a QA manager in place. These guys have been great. So I will drop that in the chat for anybody who's interested. Let's see here. Let's see. There's the link for that. Typically, okay, hold on. What's the next question? Sean says, do you have a decision-making criteria to identify strong property managers? I don't have like a specific resource for that, but it's a great question. So I could probably put something together, but just to answer your question, Sean, the main thing with property manager is you're going to want to talk to some people of whose properties they're managing. A lot of times, I think where people go wrong with property managers is they try to find the cheapest one, right? Standard for property management is like 8 to 10% of your rent. People try to find people that do like charge 5%, which those people are out there. But what you don't realize is they're not going to do a good job. They're typically going to have other fees that they're going to hit you with, or they're going to mark up repairs, or who knows. And I made that mistake. So I actually pay a premium for my property manager, but I have everything included. There's no extra fees or BS or anything like that, which makes it really easy for me to underwrite for my cash flow. And then if you're going to go Section 8, like you just want to make sure that they have expertise in doing that. And not like they're open to doing it, but like that's a good percentage of the types of doors that they manage. Sean, I hope that answered your question. Feel free to chime in or type anything else in the chat if you have any follow-ups to that. Akash says, typically, why would someone be selling their Section 8 property? What if the property is already being rented? Is it easy to terminate the rental agreement? So I think what you're saying is maybe you're looking at a property that already has a Section 8 tenant and they're selling that property. So, I mean, somebody could be selling a property for a number of reasons. They could be trying to trade up to something else. They could be moving out of the market. They could need money. Who knows? I don't know why somebody would be selling a property. That's a personal thing. But I will tell you some things to look for or to consider. If somebody is selling a property with a tenant in it, there could be an issue with the tenant. So anytime I walk a property like that has a tenant in it, I have my property manager in addition to my contractor. So my contractor walks it to make sure what kind of work we need to do. My property manager walks it to just see what kind of vibe or feeling or interpretation that she gets of the tenant. Okay. Because that's really important. Here's the biggest mistake a lot of people make with Section 8 is if they've had the property a long time, they may have not raised the rent. Section 8 will increase your rent every single year. Every single year, like clockwork, you can raise your rent, but you have to do the paperwork. So 90 days before your renewal with Section 8, you have to request a rent increase. So I've had properties that I did buy with a Section 8 tenant, and they were paying like $700 a month through Section 8, and the renewal was going to be coming up in like 4 or 5 months. And on the renewal, we got that bumped up to like 1,200 or 1,100, something like that. So you have to be diligent about the paperwork in getting those increases. To kick a Section 8 tenant out, if they've broke the rules of the Section 8 program or of the lease agreement, yes, you can terminate them. But your property management has to coordinate with Section 8 throughout that process. So, Akash, I hope that answered your question. Let me know if you have any follow-ups to that. Charles says, is there a capacity on Section 8 in the given area? Yeah, good question. So if you're considering Section 8 as like a strategy that you really want to go after, you're going to want to reach out to the local housing authorities, HUD in your area or in your market rather, and see how many outstanding vouchers there is. And that's going to give you an idea of like what the demand is, right? So if they have, long wait list, lots of outstanding vouchers, then there's tons of demand and budget for Section 8 in that market. So Brandon says, when you're raising capital from local banks, private lenders, F&F, I don't know what F&F is, to finance your deal, how do they vet you? How do you pass the test to actually get money in your pocket? Brandon, I don't entirely understand your question, but whenever you're doing a rental deal, I mean, you are going to, with some hard money lenders are not going to do a credit check at all. Some will do a credit check one time. And they are going to lend based on the asset. So they're not looking at your personal income. They're not looking at your debt to income ratio. They're not underwriting you, the individual. They are saying, does this look like a deal, right? Is there potential upside here? So they have their own underwriting. Some of them, they require an appraisal and send somebody out to the property to see what is it worth in its current condition. What's the potential with the rehab budget? And so they are going to underwrite the asset and not necessarily you, with the exception that some will run your credit. Charles says, what are you typically providing for private money lenders? 10%. So the benefit of 10 to 12%. So I would say the benefit with a private money lender in comparison to a hard money lender is typically going to charge you 12% interest and anywhere from 2 to 6 points, plus maybe have some other fees. And then there's going to be a process as far as getting draws. So you would have to like either pay your contractor and then get backfilled or provide the invoice from your contractor along with videos and pictures and so on. And for some people, like that's not a big deal. But the points could kill the deal. Like you could underwrite a bunch of deals and be like, oh man, if I could just have another 10,000 here, this deal would work. And the points will kill that. So with a private money lender, they're not going to charge you origination points and junk fees. It's just like, hey, if you let me borrow, $100,000, I'll give you a 10% return. And so, and also you would get all that money up front from them. So you can, be a lot quicker with your rehab and your draws and paying your contractors and scale faster. So those are some of the benefits of a private money lender versus a hard money lender.
How long do you normally keep that out for, Colin? On that 10%, how long do you have the
So typically we try to stay within 90 days. Sometimes on flips, those might go 120 days. Um, but it just depends, right? On the BRRRRs, you have a little bit more control because you're getting in there, you're rehabbing it, you're getting a tenant. That's the other thing. With a Section 8 tenant, you can get that filled like really quickly. Typically, we're getting them filled in like 1 week, from when we list them. Um, and then you can refinance quickly. So on a flip, there's just a lot of moving parts. I know we're not talking about flips today, but those are typically a longer hold period. Uh, Thank you. So Sean says, thank you. Was targeting one I found for 10%, and then we'll ask for referrals. Does the property manager help you identify your remote rehab team of the contractor, project manager, and inspector? Or do you identify those separate? Good question, Sean. I would say the easiest way to build a boots on the ground team of people that you need is through property managers and real estate agents. They're going to have people that they recommend. Have your own process for vetting them and then always ask for references. MH. I don't know who MH is. Need to hop. Really appreciate it, Colin. Thanks for hosting this. No problem. Zach says he's got to bounce. Thank you. Cash, thank you. Charles says, what's a good ratio or percentage of vouchers? It depends on the market. So hard to say. But if you ask, how long the waiting list is, that's a really good indicator. And then how many outstanding vouchers there is for like 2 bed, 3 bed, and 4 bed. That'll give you an idea of how many people there is out there looking for a home that have vouchers that haven't found one yet. Brandon, oh, family and friends. Yeah, I mean, family and friends are great. Um, um, People to be private money lenders. I personally haven't gone that route because I don't know. Asking friends and family for money is just one of those things that makes me a little uncomfortable. Answer perfectly. Essentially, a business plan asset. John, when do you suggest opening an LLC to maximize your tax write-offs for your business after you suggest your first deal, your first calling, etc.? Clint, you want to ask? You want to answer that one?
Yeah, I mean, to me, uh, really right away, even if you're just doing wholesaling, because the tax advantages, especially if you're a high income W-2 earner. So, right, I got a CPA who specializes in tax minimization strategies. And so you could, you know, just getting that open. And even if you're spending, you know, 10, 20 grand to get some off market deals and it doesn't work out with pass through expenses and everything you can do, you can offset quite a bit of your W-2 earnings and kind of really essentially make a go at it for free. And then, right, if you actually start getting rentals, you want to protect yourself along with the tax benefits. And it's not like it's really not that expensive. So, and it's not that complicated. Um, so I think it makes sense to do it sooner than later.
Yep. Yep. I agree. I dropped the deck here for anybody who wants it. Obviously, it's got the links on here. Um, Obviously, Clint and I love talking about this stuff. We love doing these. We have another one next week. I actually forgot what the topic is, though. Um, I don't know. We're doing one of these pretty much every week. The next one is how to lock up your first off market rental in 45 days or less. So that is next week, same time. Uh, I will
Then
drop the link there. Yeah, go ahead.
one other question from Sean. Yeah, so Sean, on the holding company, right, calling how you have it structured, putting it in
Yeah.
like a non-piercing state, and then the LLCs in the actual state of the rentals.
Yep. So if you're gonna keep rentals, you want to have a holding company that holds title to the property in a non-piercing state. So I have mine in Nevada. And then you're going to need an operating LLC in the state that you're going to have rentals. That's where the money's going to flow in and out. Okay. So whatever state you're operating in, you need an LLC for money in and out, but you don't want to hold title in that same LLC. I also do not recommend holding title in your personal name. So you basically, at the bare minimum, you're going to need two LLCs. I have properties in three different states. So I have LLCs in three different states as operating LLCs. And then I have one holding company that takes title for all those properties. Why Nevada over Wyoming? No particular reason. I mean, they're both non-piercing states, so either one is fine. Um, I live in California, so I don't know. Nevada's just closer to me. Um, no particular reason. I think there's like 7 or 9 non-piercing states, and as far as I'm concerned, any of them are fine. Do you have the holding company under a trust as well for another layer of protection? I do. I do. Good question. So my family trust owns the holding company, which also my trust owns all of the other LLCs. So, and that's really just like if anything were to happen to me, then it's very straightforward that my assets go to my children, really. Yeah. Any other questions? We can hang out for a few more minutes. I dropped the link there for anybody who wants to join the session next week, where we'll talk more about how to get off market deals. Um, and then I dropped the deck for anybody who wants this content, or if you have any interest in taking action on 2 of the 3 options, joining the community, or if you're interested in a one-on-one, then you can book a call with Clint, and he can tell you more about what that program looks like. Um, Again, one of the people we're working with, he got his first deal in 2 weeks. Looks like there's a few more people still hanging out. We haven't heard from Tiffany. Tiffany, you got any questions? Andrew, any questions? Nope. All right. Well, I think
Thanks,
most of
guys.
you
Really,
found
really
us.
insightful. Thank you so much. Really
Yeah,
appreciate it.
no problem. Pretty sure most of you found us on LinkedIn. So I'm sure you know how to find us there. If you have any questions, shoot us a DM. Um, Happy to help. Uh, Happy to give you any resources that we may have mentioned on here as well. Tiffany says she's just starting learning process. Cool. Yeah. I say anybody who's like in that learning process mode, um, just at some point you got to take action. So, it's a personal journey. So I would just say decide, when that is. I wish I would have. The only thing about real estate is I wish I would have started 2 years before I did. I sat on the sidelines for 2 years, like listening to every podcast and YouTube University and all that stuff, and got overwhelmed. And finally, I just took action on one thing, and it's changed and evolved since then. So the number one thing is like doing your first deal, doing your very first deal, and just like every deal has a learning experience in it. All right. I'll go ahead and close it out. Thanks, everybody. Hope to see you on the next one. And hopefully, we see some of you in the community.